my goal is to change your life in 7 minutes. But that's a pretty long time, so I have time for a joke. So there's a little kid who's not doing very well in school. And one day he goes up to his teacher and he taps her on the shoulder and says, "Miss Bostrom, I don't want to scare you, but my daddy says if my grades don't improve, somebody's going to get a spanking." Human beings, you know, we're an odd lot. One of the things that we tend to do is to avoid responsibility anytime we can pass it off on anybody else that's convenient. And unfortunately, that tends to build up over time and create some really serious problems, like global climate change, for instance. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about something that's similar to climate change, in that its scope goes around the globe. It has been developing for centuries. It has very many complex problems or causes. It affects every single one of us. And we can actually solve it. This problem, I think, is very serious in our time. But I'm telling you, I think this is the first time you've probably ever heard of it. Because nobody talks about it. Even discussing the subject requires that we reevaluate some really serious things. I think one of the reasons the problem is not addressed is because what we tend to do is to separate our lives into separate arenas for expediency of management. And it's really irritating if we try to blend them together. But this is a problem that cannot be addressed in separate areas. It has to be addressed holistically. And the areas that I'm thinking of in particular are religion, economics, and our personal lives. And although both individuals and institutions falsely believe that we can keep these separate, a lot of times we can't. But I'm an artist, I can't be fired, and so I'm going to irritate you by bringing this up. The problem I'm talking about is a gradual devaluation of the flesh that has become exacerbated by the global spread of capitalism. Now, another reason we can't address this is that only one of those three areas has any kind of language to talk about what I'm referring to, and that's religion. To borrow the words of Christians, our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Now, in the economic world, there's no way to say that. You can't talk about that. In the personal world, you can borrow those very pretty words, but it's very hard to make them stick, and I'll tell you why. We're embedded in our culture like fish in water. It's constantly putting pressure on us. And ours is a very strange culture. We were founded by Puritans who are terrified that somebody somewhere is having a good time. Puritans believe that the only time the body should ever be referred to is for punishment. And believe it or not, we unquestioningly and unconsciously adopt those values. And then what's really weird, on top of that, we lay the values of the marketplace, in which everything is for sale, including the flesh. Now, isn't this weird? We have Puritan fears overlain with pornographic values. So no wonder we end up in these bizarre situations where we're trying to tell our daughters, for instance, "Sweetie, your skirt is too short," while we're standing underneath this huge billboard of an image of a half-naked woman selling, I don't know, whiskey. Well, of course, our daughters aren't going to fall for it because they know we drink that whiskey. We all drink that whiskey. We all participate in the system because we are more concerned with our conveniences than we are with our convictions. And I would say we want to believe that our values are what we think, but our values are what we do. So how is it that our daughters are ever going to believe that their bodies are sacred? What they end up doing is by the time they get to middle school, like they do here at Helena Middle School, these girls end up cutting themselves because they hate their bodies, because they will never look like those images that they see in the media. Now, if there's one thing I'm good at besides irritating people, it's complaining about the way things are. So I really wanted to do something different. I wanted to create something positive to deal with this. So several years ago, I came up with this idea for a project called The Body Songs, based on a series of short films in which I take passages of holy texts from different religions, different traditions around the world and throughout history, paint them on people's skin, and then film as they move, and this poetry unfolds in this beautiful sculptural way. It's really pretty remarkable. My hope is to spark community dialogue about these issues. Hopefully a viewer, after seeing one of the films, will go home and look at their own body in the mirror and discover how really remarkable and magical and beautiful their flesh is. If we can manage to think about the true value of our flesh, despite the culture of Puritan porn, we can recover a sense of the profound value of each one of our bodies, making it that much harder for us to abuse our own flesh, or the bodies of other people around the world, or the bodies of animals with whom we share this earth, or in fact, the great body of the earth itself. Because we can't abuse any one of those without hurting our children, and our children are our future. This is a global problem, but we don't have to begin by loving the whole globe. All we have to do is learn to love our own bodies, to truly love our flesh, and the rest of it will fall into place.